One of the interesting things about people that are jealous of other people that are extremely successful is that you're missing one of the core lessons of competition. One of the core lessons of competition is to be inspired by those who are more successful and not to try to chip them down and take away their accomplishments because they don't make you feel good.
Yep.
The people that are piss poor at competition are always the ones that are trying to diminish the accomplishments of those who are extremely successful. You see this in sports fans. If you see a loser, fat sports fan talking about what a piece of shit LeBron James is because he dropped the ball or he missed a shot, like the extreme reaction that they could have to someone who's extraordinarily successful is almost always in direct proportion to how much of a failure they are in their own life. And that's one of the reasons why, in contrast, it looks so ridiculous.
Yeah, well, that's part of the danger. I would say that's part of the danger of the entire identity politics movement is that, you know, that reasonable care for the dispossessed, which we already talked about, is easily contaminated by hatred and resentment for people who are not only successful, but who are... The most annoying person who's successful is the person who deserves it, not the person who doesn't deserve it. Because you can write the person who doesn't deserve it off.
Right, the lottery winner.
You can say, oh yeah, well, you know, he just got lucky.
His money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then you see the person who's broken themselves in half and, you know, come out of a really pathological background and has been successful, and you're like, you're uselessly wasting your life away.
Yes.
That's the sort of person that you really don't like because they cast you in a very dim light.
So this is where competition is so important, because the person that has a background in competition, has been involved in competition, sees a person who's busted their ass and become something really extraordinary, and it's incredibly inspirational. And you look to those people and you want to read their biographies, and you want to watch documentaries on them because it literally gives you fuel. Whereas the person who shies away from competition, is afraid of their own insecurities and failures, and really has never tested themselves, those are the ones that find these people extremely distasteful, because when they put themselves in comparison to these incredible people, they come up short.
Yeah, well, every ideal,
excuses.
Right. Every ideal is a judge.
Yes.
And so what's the answer to that? No ideals. That's a stupid suggestion.
Either.
No, it certainly doesn't, because then it leaves people without any meaning in their life. You know, so...
Well, I think it speaks to what you were talking about earlier, that we need adversity. That we need adversity, we need difficulty, we need struggle. You need a weight to carry. And if you don't have any of this, you do not get your character tested. You do not advance in your own perception of who you are in this world and how you engage with all the other people around you.
You don't call out what's best in you.
Yes.
And then you can't live without that.
Yeah.
You need that. You need that. And the trick seems to be that voluntary acceptance of the adversity. See, that's one of the things that I think is core to the mythos of Christianity, because there's an idea that you should pick up your cross and stumble uphill. And that's really what that means, is that you set your eyes on some high level vision, the city of God on the hill, whatever that happens to be, you know. And then you take the burden, whatever burden you're capable of lifting, which is obviously going to be a burden of suffering, at least to some degree, and you carry that voluntarily. That's the trick, is that, and then you say, well, you need a purpose in your life. It's like, well, look, there's a lot of problems around you in the world. You have some problems even that bother you, right? Personally, they seem to call out to you those problems. Maybe those are your problems. Those are the problems you should solve. And those, I think, are the call to adventure. It's like, there's a problem, it bugs me. Okay, do something about it. That's your problem.
There's a certain amount that you could tolerate. I mean, I think it's like weight training. There's a certain amount where it becomes detrimental, where you've overtrained, your body's breaking down. There's a certain amount of problems that you have in your life that are extremely beneficial, because through going through these problems, sorting them out, you build your spirit, you build your character. And if you don't accomplish anything and you never encounter any problems, you are this gelatinous, soft, atrophied soul, and you don't have the intestinal fortitude or the spirit or the human potential has not been developed to the point where you can overcome adversity. The only way to overcome adversity is to face it.
So that optimum that you were talking about, so I've really been interested in the neurophysiology of the sense of meaning. Because neurophysiology, because the meaning, the feeling of meaning is an instinct.
Right.
It's not a thought. It's not a secondary consequence of rational processes. It's way deeper than that. It's something that drives rationality itself. So now you were just...
Does it vary amongst people?
Definitely.
Yeah.
But it varies in this way, as far as I can tell. So imagine, as you said, that there's an optimal load, right? You exceed that and to your detriment.
Yes.
And you see that in the weight room. You pull a muscle, you'll hurt yourself.
Yeah.
You can injure yourself very badly, right? You can take yourself out for the count. But then if you work too little, well, then there's no gain in it. You have to find that thin edge where you're competent at what you're doing, but you're pushing yourself. That's going to be where meaning lies. That's what meaning tells people. It says you're on the edge where you're competent and out of undue danger, but pushing yourself enough so that you're continually developing. That's the instinct of meaning. And that looks to me like it's a consequence of the interaction between the right and the left hemispheres, and a consequence of the interaction between the negative emotion systems, anxiety and pain, that regulate you, that protect you from harm, and the exploratory and play systems that drive you forward. You want the exploratory and play systems to drive you forward, but then they're regulated by these negative emotions so you don't hurt yourself. And if you get that optimally right, then that's the point of maximal challenge. And that makes you really alert because your positive emotion is functioning. That's what's driving you forward. This is worth doing. And your negative emotions are alert too, saying, yeah, but be awake and be careful. And you know what that's like in the weight room. If you're lifting something that's at the edge of your ability, and you've got a spotter, you want to push and you can barely do it, and you want to make sure that you're not going to pull your arm down and rip the hell out of your muscle. But you're right on that edge, and that's the place of maximal gain. And that sense of meaning, that's what puts you on the border between chaos and order, right? Because too much order means you're just practicing what you already know. And then you stultify and stagnate. And too much chaos means you better look out because you're going to hurt yourself. You're pushing yourself beyond your limits. You stay right on that edge. That's where there's maximal meaning.
And the only way to find out where that edge is
to push it.
To push it.
Yeah.